Welcome to DineOnCampus.com at Florida Atlantic University.
This is today's speech.
Welcome back to DineOnCampus.com at Florida Atlantic University. I'm Kim.
And I'm Darren.
And we're here at the Jewish Life Center checking out the new kosher deli on campus called The Hub.
This is Darren here at the Jewish Life Center, and we've got a couple questions for him concerning Jewish life in general and anything else we might want to feel like asking.
Well, I think everybody wants to know, really. Well, I don't want to know because I'm not Jewish. What is kosher?
Kosher is a description of a type of food that deals with a lot of different issues. There are people that keep different levels of kosher observance. It basically boils down to a couple of main areas. One is not mixing milk products and meat products. So unfortunately things like chicken parm and cheeseburgers are out of the question. But it also deals with the type of meats that you can eat. Animals that, like a pig, animals who do not chew its cud, for example. There's really details of how to deal with it. Beef is fine, pig is not fine. Certain types of fish that have scales are fine, but shellfish are not fine. So shrimp and lobster are also off the menu. So some of the best things that some people love are off the menu, but for those people who don't eat it, you kind of really realize how quickly you don't miss it. And those are probably the main issues of observing kosher foods.
It sounds like such a complicated process to bring kosher foods to campus. I mean, it has to be watched and prepared, all just to make sure that it can be edible for students. Would you say that this process is worth it?
Is it worth it?
Well, yeah.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I would tell you that it sounds a heck of a lot harder than it is. And the issue of is it worth it is relative. And I will tell you that it's not as hard as it is in practice as it sounds, because when you're doing it and you live it every day, you're used to it. You have your separate dishes and you're used to it. And you don't really think about it anymore. But one of the ways that we're dealing with it on campus is that they're bringing in food from the outside. So the Hub, for example, there's no food that's going to be cooked or prepared here, so that we don't have to worry about making any mistakes. Everything that's going to be served at the Hub is going to be cooked somewhere else and prepared somewhere else and brought here every day, sealed and ready to go. So just like you can go into Outtakes and pick up a sandwich that's already made, you're going to be able to come to the Hub and pick up a sandwich that's already made. You know it's kosher, and you don't have to worry about did they make a mistake or not, because they did it somewhere else in another kitchen where there's someone watching to make sure that nothing's happening. So we kind of got the best of both worlds at FAU. We got the kosher food without the headache.
That seems pretty convenient.
It definitely has been.
I was wondering, I did notice that since you were talking about facilities, what is an OR facility, and what does OR mean?
It's actually, it is a abbreviation ORB, which stands for the Orthodox Rabbinical Board. You get into the fun politics of Jewish life when I describe it, but the short answer is there's lots of different groups that can supervise to make sure that those mistakes are not necessarily happening. And different groups have different levels of observance. Some are a little bit more strict and some are a little bit more liberal. And the group that FAU is contracting with is going to be the most strict and the most observant, so that anybody at any level can certainly feel comfortable to know that the kosher food on this campus meets their requirements. It's kind of the greatest common denominator. You go for the highest level of observance, this way everybody's okay. And so the ORB, the Orthodox Rabbinical Board, is here in South Florida the highest level of observance of supervision.
Another thing I'd actually like to ask you is, since we do have a Jewish Life Center, how many Jews are on campus? It actually bring an idea of why we would create the facility, so there must be a huge Jewish population at this point.
It is a question of how many Jews are on campus, and then how does it relate to the Hub and food. The short answer of how many Jews are on campus is about 1,800, a little under 2,000 Jews. So about 10% of the campus is Jewish. And it's growing. I think very rapidly. We've seen the number of Jewish students on campus growing every year.
That includes both on campus and commuter?
It's about 10% of the student population overall on the Boca campus is a Jewish student population. Now, a very, very, very small percentage of Jewish people keep kosher or require themselves to eat kosher food.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, so why did the university decide to put kosher food on campus? Number one, the issue is there are students who do need kosher food, and we need to be able to accommodate them. Up until now, someone who wanted kosher food on campus had the wonderful, distinct pleasure of going into the cafeteria and getting a frozen meal heated up in the microwave. So the options, yummy is right. The options weren't that great. So now, obviously, they're going to have another alternative.
So, do you know what kind of foods you can expect to have at the deli?
Yeah, the hub's going to have actually both. Ironically, it's going to have both milk and meat products, but they're all going to be sealed separately, so someone can have one or the other. They can choose. All the food that's coming in from an outside source from the ORB facility is going to be things like turkey sandwiches and chicken Caesar salads and wraps, and it's going to be meat-based food. So you'll be able to get any plethora of sandwiches, wraps, and salads that are prepared fresh every day. They're brought on campus every morning fresh, and you're going to enjoy a fresh new sandwich or salad every day. But there's also a lot of pre-prepared foods that are packaged, like muffins and cookies and granola bars and snacks and chips and lots of different things. Again, in some ways, the fact that this is going to be a kosher facility for most students isn't going to really matter. It's just going to be another place for them to grab something quick so they don't have to run to Outtakes, or they don't have to wait in a long line at Einstein's, or they don't have to pick something up at the food court. They can just come in, grab a sandwich, and run to class very quickly. And the fact that it's going to be kosher turkey or non-kosher turkey, they'll never know the difference.